Now, I want to test a control for you. I have tested a control, and this control I want to test today, I want to test it with you, is a password perimeter control. I want to show you what a control look like. I've tested it. It's right here. I've tested it on my own. It's right here. I don't know if you can see it. So this is like how your work paper is going to be like for every control you test that protect a system. You will have a work paper like this where you write the narrative of the control, which we call the test of design, how the control is designed to work. You are going to be the one that write those things out. You're going to write those things out yourself. You can use old document. All you have to do sometimes, if think about it, you have to know what you're doing. If you are working with first year, second year, third year client, that is good, meaning that somebody has already created this document down. But what if your company just pull a new contract with a first year client and your manager is so busy? You have to be the one to write these things. That's why it's very important you know how to write these things. Okay, so first of all, I will go through the Word document before I come to the work paper, because the Word document will tell you a bit more what you need to understand. So if we look at the Word document, so let's call this our work paper for this password perimeter control. We want to secure the company SAP password. We want to put a control in place to make sure that people who are not supposed to log into the system are not logging into the system. We're going to write the control description like that, right? How do we write it? We write it and say password configuration for gaining access to all in scope system and applications reflect the entity policy for minimum standard. You need to know how to write a control description. What I am saying there, in another word, is saying that those people that are not in the company do not have access to the system. That is all I'm saying right there. Only those who are in the company have access to this system, and the configuration meets the overall policy set by the company. That is just exactly what I'm saying there in that control description. Now, we also have to write at the control attribute. When we say control attribute, we're now asking, what kind of control is this? Is this a preventive control? Is it a detective control? Is it all type of control? We now know that since this prevent access, this is an access control because it prevents hackers from getting into your computer. So that's why it's called access control. Okay, then we are going to name the control. We are going to give the control a ID, because when we enter this in our system, in our cloud system, we want to get an ID, right? Everybody have an ID, right? When you come to work, you have an ID to come to work, right? Your ID number. That control, we have an ID number. So let's call this control IT Password Parameter A9. Again, how do I come about that name? I have used the framework to make that name. I use the framework. I am testing an ITAC control that is password perimeter, that is part of A9 of the COSO framework. Okay, that's how I come about that ID. So if you don't know about all these things, you're not going to be able to read this. I was able to read it because I know how I made that name, the ID. Then we say, what is the control type? Is it a preventive or automative? So basically, this is a preventive control because we're trying to prevent somebody from having access to our company assets. That's why it is a preventive control. Is this control automated? Yes, it is automated. It's not a manual control. Okay, we have automated control and we have manual control. Manual control are like control whereby you do data entry, you do manual stuff, you have to go manually to click. With this, it's a preventive control because it automatically reacts. That's why it is preventive. How often is this control frequency? This control frequency is done annually. We test this control annually in the audit cycle. Okay, is it a quarterly? Is it a 3-month testing? No. Is it a 6-month testing? No. This control is tested annually. That's why the frequency is annually. Then who is the control owner? You want to, again, remember when I was talking about the field work, the walkthrough. That's when you get to know who these people are. Who is the control owner? In the document, I wrote a control owner name, but right here I put it as SAP Security Administrator. He is the control owner because we're testing his application. So the person in charge of SAP security will be the control owner. So what kind of risk is this control addressing? This control is addressing unauthorized access due to weak or compromised password. What kind of access this control is, what kind of thing this control is doing? What is this control supposed to do for the company? Every company have a control, guys. You remember when you go to a company and you see a badge tap, you know, you have to tap your ID before you get to the country. Those are physical controls. Let me break it down for you. When you go to a company and you need to get into the company, you can't just go there and open the door and walk in. You have to tap your badge to get in. That is a physical control. In IT, sometimes people test physical control and people do not test physical control. It is based on the contract. Sometimes company outsource that aspect to other company and leave the IT aspect to other company. Most time I have worked with big 4 accounting firms, EY, Deloitte, KPMG, PwC folks. We don't test physical control. We do not test physical control. Okay? Yeah. So you have to detail what this control is addressing. It's addressing access, unauthorized access. Let me break this down again for you. When you are leaving your house, what do you normally do? You close your door and you lock it with a key, right? The only person who have the key to get into your house is you. But what if you come back and somebody already broke the window and get into your house? That person is unauthorized to get into your house, right? And behind the window, you put a ray. So when the person broke your window, the person cannot get into your house because of the ray. Let's call that ray you put in your house a control. That is exactly what these big companies are doing, and people are making a lot of money. How simple is that? But you have to know all these things. Okay? Now, let's talk about the control objective. What is the control trying to achieve? Right? The objective. To ensure, again, you see my languages, to ensure strong password practice are enforced to protect system, access, and data integrity. We don't want you to come steal data. We don't want you to log into our system and corrupt it. We don't want you to log into our system and delete files. That's the objective of this control. It is preventing unauthorized people from having access to data, files, and everything. Okay? And then what we now need to tell, what kind of control are we, what kind of system are we testing? We have to make that system clear. We are testing SAP application. We are testing SAP application. Now, when you're testing a password perimeter, within the framework you're using, your company is using, which I say you need to understand which framework they're using. the framework will tell you what evidence to collect. Sometimes they have a generic evidence sheet, which not going to help you that much. But if you have been working in this field for quite some time, you already know what you are looking for. So within a password perimeter control, we are going to be looking for the SAP system configuration that is done by this powerful ID, which is the ROZ10 guys and the SU01 guys. They are the people that can access the configuration. Okay, we are going to be looking at the client IT security policy, company worldwide password policy, which is the client who gave us the job. We want to look at their own internal policy of how their password should look like. I have created a document for that. Again, I have used AI. Again, everything you see here is created by me. This is a dummy for real life example. So I took another step forward to create a dummy company policy, and I create it under my podcast name, and I will put that document out for you. So your company-wide password policy looks like this for the client. It's just going to say when this whole worldwide policy was effective, who wrote it, mostly the ISO that wrote it, and the Chief Information Security Officer will approve it. It will say the purpose, it will tell you the scope, it will tell you the policy. Then over here, you start seeing the password settings. Okay, these documents are very important. So this is a dummy policy I created for my own podcast, just to show you, just to kind of show you this whole walkthrough process as an example. The next thing you're going to look for is the Active Directory system configuration. Again, sometimes system application password configuration will not match the company worldwide password. Then we use a second backcut to protect it, because it does not comply. It's not in compliance with the password, the company worldwide password policy. So therefore you have to bring something like ADP to protect it. So for you to get into SAP, you will have to get into AD Force. You will have to access Active Directory Force to get in for a single sign-on. So for that, you will need AD configuration. The next thing you're going to get is either there is a audit log of the last password review. I haven't tested a control where they have this client, they have to do anything about a review for password policy. I haven't tested one like that, but yes, that is part of a document they might have. If they don't have it, you ask for it and say, hey, do you have the last password review you guys did? If they say yes, you tell them to give it to you. If they say no, you move aside. You don't fight it, because they don't do that. Okay, the other document requests are enough for an assurance that the password, the control is working as effectively. Then we look at the basic and key. We look at like key control aspect, like based on risk from SOX relevance. Again, when you're working on this company, the goal is that you're meeting Sarbanes-Oxley requirements. That's why we call it SOX. Okay, so that's the key and non-key control. Okay, then the sampling. Again, for a password perimeter, like I said, there is no sample. You do not need to collect sample. Again, that's why it is not applicable. Control is system enforced, right? And not based on a population. Remember, I talked about this earlier. When you're doing batch job, when you're doing access, it's a population. We are talking about population. Batch job is a population because you guys are just, it's a batch job. The application is running, right? It's running different badges, different badges, different badges. It's like people going, coming out, people going. We can count that, right? When you're doing access control, we can count that. We can count the people. We can count the employees. When you doing change management, we can count incident. Oh, number one incident happened yesterday. Today we had another incident. Yes, when you're talking about change management, update, we can count those things. We cannot count a password configuration. It's one configuration, it's one configuration. So that's why you don't collect a sample. Okay, review of configuration surface. Are we doing reliance, or we doing reperformance, or we doing independent? That depends on you. Right here, I'm going to remove reliance and I'm going to put independent, because everything was tested by me. I did not rely on internal audit work to test this control. Then you have to define, you have to know all this thing. Again, from the audit planning, you need to know what is the cycle of your audit. When is this audit going to last? Is it from January 2025 to January 2026? Or is it from January 2025 to December 2020? You need to know your audit cycle. So you have to put your audit period. It's a must, okay? All these details. Again, working in IT means having a high level of detail-oriented thinking skills. You need to be very detail-oriented. Then, after testing, you will decide if the control is working or if the control is not working. If the control is not working, you put exception. So management can come and review, and you guys can discuss about it and decide if it's working, if it's not working. Sometimes there might be drawback, there might be argument, and you guys will have to settle. Again, it's you are their employee, so sometimes you have to listen to them. Sometimes management can be difficult, right? And you will have to request more documents to make sure that you are doing the right thing before you agree that the control is working as effectively. But if you think the control is not working as effectively, you can put no exception. Okay, you can put exception. But if it's working effectively, you can put no exception. Okay. Then at the end of the day, you will have to complete that work paper. Okay, you will have to send it for your manager or your senior to review. You will have to prepare it on you guys cloud base where you guys store all the work paper, right? You will have to prepare it so that whenever anybody review it, they will know that this is prepared, it is done, it has been reviewed by your senior, your manager, and your director. So no need to go touch the document anymore. It is done. Don't go back and edit it. If you edit it, they're gonna see when you edit it and when you re-upload it. Okay, then you have to sign off on it. I'm signing off on it and it's done. I'm done. I'm signing off on it. That work is done. That is what this look like. Now, another thing you need to know is writing the test procedure. What is the test procedure? After understanding all these attributes, you still have to write a test procedure, how this whole thing was tested. Okay. Now you telling the person who's going to review it, the regulator, this is what I did. That is basically your test procedure. So in this test procedure, we're going to tell the regulator that we review the test of design of the control. We review the test of effectiveness of the control, which is test of design, TOD, test of effectiveness, TOE. Okay, we obtain the password perimeter configuration screenshot with date and timestamp. Okay, you want to show the time you received those documents. You don't want to collect only the document, you want to see the time in the bottom. That's why the computer has a time in the bottom. You want to take entire screenshot to make sure you show the date and time. Okay, you want to review the perimeter of this password, right? What the perimeter of the password is, the minimum length, the password complexity, the lockout time, the aging of the password, and the account lockout. Okay, you want to understand all these things. Then you want to reconcile and tie the SAP perimeter configuration, ADP, and the IT security to make sure that there is no weakness, there is no derivation between AD, SAP, and the policy, which is this. So remember, I showed you this policy. This is the policy. Again, the policy has how the password should look like right here. Remember the one I was showing you right there? That is it right here. The minimum length, you want to make sure you tie it to this, that everything here is everything there. As you see there, you will see it's almost the same thing right here. So I'm looking at this. Minimum length is 8. The password complexity is enable. The lockout time is 3. The lockout duration is 30, and the maximum date is 45. When you come to the password policy, the policy of the company, the same thing. The password complexity is enable. The minimum length is 8. The lockout time is 3. The lockout duration is 30 minutes, and the maximum length is 45 days. You want to tie that to tell the people that yes, we are in compliance because the configuration matches the company worldwide policy that was approved. That is reconciling. Then over here, you want to obtain and review audit log of password. Again, remember I told you, if the company is doing a password review, you will need to request of all these things, right? There will be a ticket for it, okay? There will be a ticket so that is entered into Jira. You want to verify if a review occurred. You want to verify if a review was documented. You want to verify if what is covered in that review, and you want to verify who signed off on the review. That is if a review is done. If a review is not done, this process you just have to ignore it, okay? And then you have to observe now how the SME was able to generate configuration. That is where you tie the completeness and accuracy. That I have done my due diligence. I did all of this work. Not only all of this work, I also watched the person go into the computer step by step to generate the process. I will show you what that document look like. I have used AI to generate a dummy one for me so I can show it to you. So now in the test of design, we're just going to write what we did in the walkthrough. Okay, we're going to write on the scheduled walkthrough day or during my field work, I inquire from this person in charge of this system. However, the company standard template, I use my company standard, I adjust some information, and that this is not what we're going to write. I wrote this here just to give you an overview of what the test of design would look like. The same thing with the test of effectiveness. You're going to state again that you did your due diligence, you meet with the company staff who is in charge, you listen carefully, the person tells you how the control work, you take it down, you put it in your company template, you edit some stuff, you edit the date, you edit the person name, you discuss how the control work. Now let's go into that document I've made. This is how it should look like. Again, this is how it should look like. In here, you see what I said. On 7/19/2025, which is today, Vitalis LLC inquire of Fisher Wise, who is the director of information system, to determine if SAP password configuration comply with the organization established minimum password standard as defined in the risk room HQ password policy. Vitalis LLC notes that the SAP application, specifically user authentication, is integrated within AD, which is Active Directory, meaning that users must first as AD authentication before accessing SAP. As such, the password control within SAP itself serves as a secondary layer of security. Remember, I told you, because the SAP does not comply with the company overall worldwide policy, we use AD to make it comply. Okay, you go ahead again. What you're doing, you're explaining the test of design of this control. Vitalis LLC conducted an inspection of the SAP password perimeter settings. Remember, somebody have to go show you the settings. Okay, settings, and observe that this configuration did not fully align with the with the risk room password policy requirement. Okay, let me get that corrected ASAP. I used that as a dummy word right there before, and okay, the risk room password policy requirement, e.g., password length, complexity, expiration. However, because the primary authentication mechanism is routed through Active Directory, remember again, Active Directory is a second layer because SAP password configuration does not comply with the company worldwide password. So we're using a second layer to hold it down, which is compliant with the risk room password standard. The risk of weak SAP native password setting is mitigated, right? Again, SAP did not comply with the whole organization worldwide password, but ADP compliance, so we use through ADP to get into the system. In addition, Vitalis LLC conducted an inspection of the Active Directory password perimeter settings and confirmed that they comply with the Risk Room HQ password policy, ensuring that authentication to the SAP is governed by policy compliant password controls. The control is designed to ensure that all SAP access is gated through a centralized and policy compliant identifies management process, which is AD, thereby reducing the likelihood of unauthorized. Again, remember, this is a control that need to address unauthorized access. Unauthorized access due to misaligned local password perimeter. Up here is the same the control description. Risk room password configuration for gaining access to all in scope system and application reflects the entity policy for minimum standard. That is what your test of design will look like. Your test of design, how do I come about this test of design? It is the control owner that tells me everything on that walkthrough. Remember when I was telling you on the audit plan, on the walkthrough day, that's why the field work is very important. You need to go into the field work, the risk assessment phase, so that you can listen, you can record the entire meeting. So when you are doing all this control testing, again, this is exactly what Facebook, YouTube, Microsoft, Big Bank, Citibank, Bank of America, these are what they're paying IT folks to do, bro. That's what I'm teaching you for free. If you know this shit, you will be collecting 6-figure 150 straight ahead. Know that 150 straight ahead. Nobody is cutting any dime from it. If you know this thing to the teeth, these are what big folks are doing so that they can keep bad guys away from their assets. Okay? You are getting this information from the guy in charge, which is the SME. Okay, the SME tells you this is exactly how the control is designed, and you go later and you type it out. So you should know how to write a test of design. Okay, after the test of design, the next thing you should know how to write in the work paper is your test of effectiveness. Okay, your test of effectiveness is very important. Okay, your test of effectiveness, in this screen you will see who designed it, who tested the control. Is tested by me. Okay, what control reference is this? Is a GITC control PPO1. Again, like let me because again I am working on two different documents. I have been working this out. Let me show you. So right here, I have resurfaced this and changed that to from GITC to an IT phase. Okay, that's what I changed it to when I was testing it. So I changed it to an IT PPA9 control because of the connection I made. And what date did I test it? I tested it today. Okay, so I test it today. I don't know why this did not save my date, but yeah, let me frame this back to 19. I hope my work saved or I'm screwed because I was working on this today. So yep, you test it today, and on this day you still going to do the same thing on your test of effectiveness. Okay, on 7 of 19 2025, Vitalis LLC obtain and inspect password configuration to determine if the enforced password configuration criteria for gaining access to the in-scope system and application reflect the entity policy for minimum standard. Vitalis LLC inspect the most recent version of the Risk Room HQ Information Technology and Information Security Program policy in order to determine the company worldwide requirements for password configuration relate to in-scope systems and application. Vitalis LLC notes the following requirement for password configuration for Risk Room HQ password policy. These are what we have learned that the password should look like. Okay, however, we learned that SAP is not in compliance, but through AD we are able to gain access into SAP. Do we have a sample methodology? No, we do not have a sample methodology. The conclusion here, after I finished testing this control, I concluded that this control is working as effectively. Okay, that's why there is no exception. Now, what I did here, this is the lead sheet. This is what the lead sheet would look like. Okay, what you are doing in the lead sheet, you just naming this, the control you're testing. Again, this is going to be reviewed by regulators. You're naming the control you're testing, you're naming the account locker. Again, everything that you just talked about right here, you just bring it to the lead sheet to make sure that they can see what it stands for. Okay, it depends on how you decide to design your own work paper. Every company has their own work paper. I first of all did this in Microsoft Word before I start designing this. Okay, I took my time, I finish it on Microsoft Word, then I start designing this. Again, it's not easy to get work papers, but it took me some time, some good time to work on this. Okay, my first work I did it on a Microsoft Word. That is this one, as you can see here. Okay, I did it in Microsoft Word, but I decided to bring it into Excel because when I worked with my previous companies, I designed my own work paper how I want it to look like. I like to tell my story. Again, testing a control is like telling a story. I like to tell my story in a fancy, attractive way. And I have gotten a lot of thumbs up, except people who don't like me, who think I am too good, complains a lot. But I have worked my way in a way that when I deliver my deliverable, everybody is shocked. Okay, they are shocked, they are amazed of the level of work I put in my deliverable. As you are watching right now, this is me. This is the kind of level of work I put into my deliverable. As you are seeing this right now, right? You will be wondering how I came about all these ideas, all these things. It's because of the amount of time I put into my deliverable. I want you to go through something that look good. That's why when I was going to school, professor loved me so much, because whenever I finish writing my papers, doing my presentation, I always wow them because of the level of work I put in. Okay, so here you go. This is just going to be your lead sheet where you put the control you're testing, this application you're testing, and what are the matrix. Okay, in your test of one, remember, because you're testing a control, you want to give an example of what you're testing. I remember I told you this, right? I told you this. In this test of one, you want to show what the SAP configuration look like and what the AD configuration look like. In here, I was able to generate these things without having the application because AI now exists. I can tell AI what I want and it will give it to me. So I tell AI to spit me an SAP password configuration, and AI was able to spit me this password configuration, and I told him how I want it to look like. So yeah, you have to show the SAP password configuration, and this is how the SAP password configuration look like. Comparing it to what the ADP password configuration look like, I also did the same thing. I told AI to give me a AD password configuration. Everything you see here are dummy. These are not company information. This information does not belong to any company. Okay? These are not company's information. All you are seeing here are done by AI, except the ones I wrote myself. Okay? Company information are not here. These are AI generated. Okay? Because in the test of one, you want to show that the password configuration that is not compliant, right? Why is it not compliant? I will tell you why it's not compliant. Remember, the maximum age here is 45. So if somebody can have a maximum age of 44, however, the maximum age here is 42. So now, if we look at Vitalis listing Active Directory in our worldwide policy, again, in our worldwide policy, which is this document, some document the company, your client will have in this is very important company document because it's created by the ISO and is signed by the CISO. In this important document, when we go to the password segment, it tells us that this is how the setting should look like. Okay, but when we go to SAP, it's not what it look like. SAP is saying 45 days, so this allows some space. That's why it is not compliant. For that, we will have to bring in ADP, which have almost the same 42 days. So that's why ADP is compliant with the company worldwide password policy. That's the way you show your test of one to show that the control is working. The next thing you have to do is to document that policy. Remember the policy I showed you just now, this policy, right? You will have to bring this entire document into the work paper so that the regulators will be able to go back, look at the SAP configuration, look at the ADP configuration, and then compare it with the worldwide password policy. You see the way it look like a storytelling stuff. This is what people make a lot of money from. Okay, guys, if you are going through into IT right now, if you are dreaming, if you have the goal, if your main goal is to go into IT, audit, consulting, you should be listening to this video. This is a small aspect of what you will be doing, but this is exactly what people did not tell me. Nobody taught me this. I had to work my ass to learn everything. That's why I know what I am doing. Next, the company can also provide you what we call IPE. IPE is information provided by the client, right? They can tell you, oh, this is the process we use to generate the configuration. It is in a document, and you will have to document that as well if you want to. Sometimes you don't need to, but sometimes you will need to. Okay, it's up to you. In this case, I brought it in because I wanted to amplify the value of IPE for you. Okay, so I also did not get this information from any company. This is not my company information. These informations are generated with AI. Okay, so the company will tell you the process, or the SME will tell you the process they use to generate this document. Okay, the process of generating this document is documented here. That's the process right here. Got it? Yeah. Then the final part of the integrity of this document, right? We're doing all the other aspect of the document, but we also have to do the integrity to make sure that the data are clean, there was no manipulation. Then come what we call the C and A. The C and A, in short, actually mean completeness and accuracy. What you're telling the regulators here is that all these documents are complete and accurate. There is no manipulation. We did not change number. We did not do anything. They are complete and accurate. How do we tell them that these are complete and accurate? We will have to walk them step by step how the SME were able to generate the configurations. Remember, this is the process to generate the configuration. This is the process. The SME is generating it and we are just taking screenshots. Okay, I was doing this, but I haven't finished it completely. Okay, before my whole daily use of my AI run out, so I will have to generate more. Okay, again, everything is AI generated. Okay, so again, who is going to generate it? Remember, is the ROZ11 or ROZ10. Okay, and this is like SAP, and you have to come here, put the password in the ADP. If you have the GM something, I believe, let me go pick that up again. Yeah, you're right here. If you have the GPMC installed in your computer, you will be able to show this. I cannot show you this because I don't have that installed in my computer, but I was able to pull a file that have this. Okay, so what this show, again, this is not any computer, any office stuff. This is internet stuff. I brought this in to show you what the ADP password look like. Again, remember, all you're doing is tying things together to show that the password is in compliance. Again, you are making sure your company is in compliance. Okay, and yeah, you see me go through Active Directory, go through all the process, come to the password policy of Active Directory, and now I'm looking at the password policy here. This is a document I got from the internet because I could not generate. I could have told AI to generate it, but my AI ran out, so I decided to pick a similar one from the internet to show you what ADP configuration look like. This is the generation process. Again, you see somebody goes to the computer configuration, he went to policy, he went to Windows setting, he went to security setting, he went to account policy, then you see password policy, then the password policy bring this. Okay, these are the kind of documents you will be requesting from the SME, the client, and that completes testing a password perimeter. So now, isn't that fun?